Right now, it's hard to run a successful car business without spilling too much water on the decks. Ford has been getting a lot of things done lately, and let's just say that not all of them are staying in the air. Ford was once on fire, breaking sales records and taking over the market. Those days are long gone. It looks like a roller coaster right now. The company is having trouble with its supply chain, technology that changes faster than your phone does, and customers who can't pay attention for more than a goldfish. It's been hard to keep up. There have also been recalls, layoffs, and a production shutdown that has been going on for weeks. All of this has caused a lot of stress. In the middle of all this, Ford just dropped a bomb that has everyone in the car business talking. In particular, what did they say? And what does this mean for the American car company? Let's jump in and find out. The last time I checked, Ford was pretty much the king of cars. After all, they were the ones who made the world go round, right? Pioneering work that is always coming up with new ideas and oozes classic American creativity. However, things began to go badly at some point along the line. It wasn't one big mistake, it was more like a bunch of small ones that added up to a big deal. There were lots of internal fights, old systems, and bosses who didn't seem to know what the employees really wanted. It was a disaster waiting to happen. While Ford tried to figure things out, Tesla and Toyota were flying by. Things are becoming very interesting now. Dealers are going crazy because Ford's CEO just dropped a bomb. Well, for a while, Ford became too greedy. The prices started going up way too much, especially for popular cars like the Bronco. At the time, it seemed like a good idea because everyone was willing to pay more than they should have. It's making people think twice now that the economy is changing and interest rates are going up. Everyone wants to save money, so who wants to spend a lot of money on a car? Ford is now in a tough spot. Should they lower prices and lose a lot of money, or should they stick to their guns and see sales drop? That's for sure a tough spot to be in. Just walk into any Ford dealership to see how serious this is. There will be row after row of shiny F-150s, Broncos, and Rangers that aren't doing much. It used to be that the hottest cars on the block would be gone before the salesman could even put the window sticker on them. Now dealers are having to turn away cars that used to be out of stock so quickly. I really mean it when I say they're running out of room. The main lots of some dealerships are so full that they have to park these trucks and SUVs on grassy fields. They should have a Ford Truck Festival, but no one is showing up. The really interesting thing is that there are a lot more brand new 2023 models on the market than 2025s. That's not okay, especially when it comes to trucks. People are taking a second look because it's only happening with Fords. This is where things get crazy. 5,063 brand new 2023 Ford trucks are still sitting on lots across the United States as of November 24. At first, that number might not seem important, but let's look at it more closely. 2.5% of all the new Ford trucks on the market right now are those trucks. At this point in the year, most other brands have already gotten rid of their older models to make room for the newest and best ones. However, those 2013s are still sitting at Ford, waiting to be bought. They are collecting dust instead of miles. And the 2019 models? I hope you can find one. In the United States, there are more than 200,000 new Ford trucks on the market right now, but less than 1,000 are 2025s. Just think about that. Less than 1.5%. It looks like they're creatures from myths or something. People talk about them, but no one has seen one. Let's see how that stacks up against Ford's competitors. For example, Chevrolet is taking a very different approach. Game. The 2025 models now make up more than half of their truck inventory. Their 23s, on the other hand, are almost completely extinct. They are keeping the inventory fresh and getting rid of the older models, which is what Ford should do. While Ram isn't exactly knocking it out of the park, they are definitely doing better than Ford. 2023 models, or about 2,100 trucks, make up about 2% of Ram's current stock. Of course, that's not ideal, but it's not nearly as bad as Ford's situation. Let's talk about the Bronco now. Remember how getting one felt like winning the lottery about a year ago? They were so uncommon. Now though, they're everywhere. It's like they made copies of these things overnight. Besides the Bronco, there are a lot of them. Ford's main truck, the F-150, is parked on lots like it's a museum. Because there are so many of these trucks, dealerships can only get rid of them by marking them down a lot. It's not just a few dealerships here and there, it's a problem all over the country. What about the Ranger? The same thing. They were very hard to find a few months ago. Bernie says, now? It seems like car dealerships are practically waving you in from the street to buy one. Here's where it gets even crazier. Despite dealerships being absolutely flooded with unsold 2024 models, Ford's CEO has announced plans to raise the manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP, for the 2025 models. Yup, raise prices. Let that sink in for a moment. With all these unsold trucks sitting around, they're thinking, let's make them more expensive. It's a move that has left both customers and dealerships scratching their heads, and, in many cases, flat out furious. People are out here wondering, what is Ford even doing? The logistical nightmare doesn't stop there. Ford dealerships are literally running out of space. Some lots are so overcrowded with 2024 inventory that they've had to start getting creative. Parking trucks on grassy fields, renting extra space, you name it. And this isn't a minor inconvenience, it's turning into a full-blown storage crisis. Here's the big question. If they can't move the 2024 models now, where are they going to put all the shiny 2025s rolling off the production line? And to make things even trickier, selling those new models at higher prices? That's like trying to sell umbrellas during a drought. It's a tough sell, to say the least. See the Ford Maverick, for example. A few months ago, these little trucks were hotter than a summer barbecue, practically flying off the lots. If you wanted one, good luck. The demand was through the roof, and spotting one on a dealer's lot was like finding a needle in a haystack. But now, oh man, it's a totally different story. Mavericks are everywhere. Really, you can't swing a wrench without hitting something. Now dealers are almost pleading with people to take them. They're giving discounts all over the place, like $1,500 to $2,000 off. The Maverick was already one of Ford's least expensive trucks, but now the price cuts make it even better. You can get the base trim for less than $35,000 right now. Not bad, right? Of course, it's still selling well because it's not one of those trucks that will destroy your bank account. It may not be breaking any records, but it's still pretty good compared to some of Ford's more expensive cars. When we talk about more expensive Ford cars, let's talk about the Bronco. Remember how much people talked about it when it came back? That SUV was like the second coming of Christ. Each person needed one. The waiting lists were crazy. Even though dealers were charging crazy markups, people were still waiting in line. Ford employees paid extra to get their hands on one, showing how excited everyone was. People were happy to pay because it felt like pay up or go home. Now, the Bronco seems to have gone from being the prom king to being the kid no one remembers. The Broncos that people used to want a lot, they're just sitting there collecting dust at car lots across the country right now. It's almost funny. It's Bronco City when you drive by a Ford lot. Broncos that haven't been sold are stacked up like a party in the parking lot. It's so bad that people have had to spill out onto the grass to make room. And you won't believe what's coming in. Yeah, more F-150s, including the shiny new 2000. Ford's been really excited about these 25 models. It's pretty hard to wrap your head around how the Bronco has fallen from grace. You know, it used to be the car everyone wanted, and now it seems like dealers can't give them away fast enough. Let's talk about the 2024 Ford Bronco Badlands, for instance. This thing looks like a total beast on paper. Is it built to last? Got it. Are you all set for some off-road adventures? Just double check it. This SUV really makes you feel like skipping work and hitting the mountains right away. But then you take a look at the price tag. $76,670. 70 grand, huh? That's enough to make anyone hit the pause button, especially when its biggest rival, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, is just sitting there looking all cool and confident with a way friendlier price tag. So here's the deal with the Bronco. It didn't just become a flop out of nowhere. The Bronco is still a tough SUV, full of that rugged charm and off-road skills that turned it into a dream ride for adventurers. But things have shifted. Demand has really slowed down, but Ford's assembly lines are still churning them out like they didn't get the memo that the party's over. So now, we've got dealerships filled with Broncos, and that once coveted item is starting to look more of a fun treat than something you really need. And we shouldn't overlook the bigger picture here. With interest rates going up and the economy feeling a bit wobbly, folks are really starting to watch their spending. Out of nowhere, that sleek Bronco in the showroom doesn't seem as tempting as it did a couple of years back. It's still awesome, don't get me wrong, but when your monthly payments are edging into luxury car territory, it starts to feel like a treat you could pass on. The story of the Bronco really shows what can happen when supply and demand don't quite match up. When it first hit the market, Ford was struggling to keep up with all the orders. That lack made it feel like a golden ticket. Buyers were really eager to snag one, and dealerships were totally enjoying it. They added some crazy markups, fully aware that folks would still buy it. But then Ford really stepped up production, and what about the buyers? So they kind of cooled down. The market has turned, and now it's the buyers who are in control. Dealers are really going all out with incentives and discounts, just hoping that someone, anyone, will grab these SUVs from them. The following is an example of a deal that seems reasonable on paper. Dealers are offering discounts. An individual dealing in $5 grand is set for life. An individual dealing in $5,000? A $7,600 markdown is the result of the discount plus a $2,000 factory rebate. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Despite this, the top-tier Bronco Badlands is still priced at $62,900. Because consumers are so picky and expensively savvy these days, that's a bitter pill to swallow in today's market. Because, let's be honest, $62,900 isn't exactly a bargain. Ford will have to dredge deeper into those discounts if they want to sell these Broncos. The pricing drama surrounding the Bronco is nothing compared to what the Ford Expedition has in store. This is the big kahuna, Ford's full-size SUV. It's incredibly expensive for all the space, power, and features it offers. We're talking about starting MSRPs of about $85 cash. Indeed, $85 grand is the price tag for that SUV. Dealers are now offering discounts of up to $11,000 to get rid of these, virtually begging customers to buy them. With that reduction, the price drops to approximately $74,000. Though it's an improvement, that's still a substantial sum of money. The average person would assume that a vehicle like the Expedition would cost somewhere around $60,000, not $75,000. The Ford F-150 is an all-star player and the company's moneymaker, or at least it used to be. So with all due respect to the series, the relationship between the two is mainly due to the Ford Supercharger and the Big Black charging chain. Dealer lots are beginning to fill up, even with these renowned pickups, which people used to buy like hotcakes. Plus, when inventory is low, retailers cut prices to stay afloat. At the moment, they're offering discounts of up to $10,000 on select trim levels to help clear out their inventory. For the first time in years, you can actually find some F-150 models priced under $50,000. The lineup has a range of great bags and great prices for all different models and select trim levels. The lineup has a longer range of— Absolutely, that's quite significant. It's a price that could really encourage those buyers who have been waiting to jump in. But hold on! It becomes even more interesting. Ford's journey into the EV world has had its ups and downs. In the third quarter of 2024, their EV division, which they've cleverly named Model E, reported a notable loss of $1.2 billion. That's just one quarter, everyone. If you take a step back and consider the first 9 months of the year, the total losses add up to a staggering $3.7 billion. Take a moment to really think about that. And here's the exciting part. During those 9 months, Ford sold about 32,000 EVs. So if you crunch the numbers, no need to stress, I've got it covered. That adds up to about 37,000 lost, $500 for each car. Honestly, losing that much money every time you sell something is the kind of math that really keeps CFOs up at night. But you know what? This isn't just a Ford issue. It's really more of a big issue for the entire EV industry. It seems like we're all in the same situation, trying to navigate through a market that's become quite crowded all of a sudden. Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, didn't hold back at all. He mentioned that the industry is currently experiencing a global price war, and it's ramping up quicker than a Tesla on ludicrous mode. It seems like the big problem is that there are just too many EVs being made, but not enough people ready to buy them. It's all about supply and demand, but right now it's becoming a real headache for profits. To complicate things even more, the EV market is just overflowing with new models. Automakers are really going for it, trying to one-up each other by cranking out everything from stylish sedans to cutting-edge trucks. That's great news for those hunting for a deal, but it's really putting a lot of pressure on companies. In an effort to maintain their position in the market, they are lowering their prices on a regular basis. However, this results in razor-thin margins or, even worse, massive losses. Ford is not the only one going through this struggle. The company Stellantis, which owns brands such as Jeep and Ram, is also experiencing financial difficulties. They are experiencing similar difficulties as a result of overproduction, meaning that vehicles are piling up and prices are dropping even further in order to move inventory. Due to the fact that there are an excessive number of automobiles, there are not enough buyers, and there is a continuous struggle to undercut the competition. Now that we have that out of the way, let's delve into the history of the F-150 Lightning, which was Ford's daring entry into the market for electric pickup trucks. Ford came to the conclusion that they should go all out with their electric game, thinking to themselves, "This is it. Everyone is going to love this." Guess what, however? When it comes to predicting how much people will actually want a brand new, all-electric pickup truck, it is more difficult than trying to find a parking spot at the mall during the chaos that is Black Friday. On paper, it sounded like a brilliant idea. Take the F-150, which has been the most popular truck in the United States for decades, and give it an electric heart. An electric vehicle that combines rugged utility with cutting-edge technology was supposed to be the crown jewel of Ford's electric vehicle strategy. But in point of fact, the ride has been a particularly difficult one, and the majority of the drama can be attributed to one thing: the price tag. I don't want to give the impression that I'm not impressed by the F-150 Lightning. To put it another way, it's an electric version of one of the most famous trucks in the history of the world. With that being said, what about the numbers? The outcome was not exactly the resounding success that they had hoped for, to be sure. The electric division of Ford, known as Model E, has been experiencing a difficult time recently. Beginning in the early years of the 24th century, their sales experienced a 26% decline. It hurts. And as if that weren't enough, they are preparing themselves for a loss of between $5 billion and $5.5 billion for the entire year. To put it another way, that is billion with a B. Does Lightning itself exist? It is moving about as slowly as a snail on a Sunday afternoon when everyone else is doing nothing. The month of November was the only month in which they sold 4,400 units, so 4,400 is correct. In terms of trucks, that is equivalent to a small town's worth. As a result, Ford was forced to reduce their production plans for the year 24 by 50%, thereby putting a stop to the production plans. So much for a dose of reality, don't you think? And this is where things become even more complicated. A total of $12 billion in investments in electric vehicles were either put on hold or completely canceled by Ford. How come? As a result of the fact that they have been incurring losses of approximately $60,000 for each electric vehicle that they sell. Just try to picture yourself selling a car and then handing over the keys to the buyer along with a large sum of money. It's unbelievable. On top of that, they had a significant dealer electric vehicle program that was in progress, but after some legal drama and dealers withdrawing their participation, the scale had to be reduced significantly. The momentum that they were hoping for was not exactly what they got. Did you also remember that they were planning to build a massive battery plant in the state of Michigan? Undoubtedly, they have reduced the budget for that project by more than 40% overall. In addition, they have decided to delay the launch of their next major electric pickup truck until the year 2027. What about that luxurious electric SUV that they hinted at? No cancellation at all. At this point, it seems as though they are attempting to balance bowling balls on a unicycle to balance themselves. The fact that consumers are still trying to figure out how they feel about electric vehicles is a contributing factor to the problem. Without a doubt, the concept of avoiding those arduous trips to the gas station while simultaneously protecting the environment is very appealing to people. But in addition to that, they are concerned about things such as high sticker prices, range anxiety, for example. Will this thing even make it to grandma's house? And trying to figure out where on earth they can charge the damn thing. It is a great deal. In order to attract customers, Ford set the starting price of the F-150 Lightning at nearly $90,000. That's the kind of number that causes you to pause and reconsider every decision you've ever made in your life. It is true that it is packed with cutting-edge features, such as a front trunk that can hold your tools and the snacks you will need for your tailgate party, sufficient torque to pull a small house, and even the capability to power your home in the event of a power outage. There is no denying the fact that $90 grand is a steep price for a truck, regardless of how cool the technology may be. How about the market? All indications point to the same conclusion. Buyers are not lining up in large numbers. As a result of the shockingly low level of demand, Ford has made the courageous decision to completely halt production until the following year. Imagine a situation in which a flagship product is put on hold, not because of problems with the supply chain, but rather because consumers are simply not purchasing it. To say that it is a difficult pill to swallow is an understatement, especially considering that the F-150 Lightning was in the spotlight previously. As far back as 23, it was the electric truck that was selling the most units in the United States, surpassing competitors such as the Rivian R1T and the Hummer EV. However, even that was not sufficient to meet the lofty sales goals that Ford had set for itself. Ford has responded to the relatively low level of demand by causing a stir at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, which is located in the state of Michigan. This plant was supposed to be a center of innovation capable of producing Lightning trucks in order to satisfy what Ford anticipated would be an unquenchable demand for their products. Instead, out of the 2,100 employees who are currently employed there, 1,400 are being offered early retirement or are being reassigned. There has been a significant shift, and although Ford has been quick to clarify that these are not layoffs, it is still a sign that there is trouble forthcoming. This is how things are currently going. In order to meet the continued demand for Ford's Bronco SUV and Ranger pickup, 700 employees are being relocated to the Michigan assembly plant in Wayne. There, they will be working on the production of these vehicles. The remaining 700 will be offered the choice to either transfer to other facilities in the state of Michigan or accept a retirement package worth $50,000. Despite the fact that Ford is portraying this as a voluntary move, it is abundantly clear that the struggles of the F-150 Lightning are having a ripple effect throughout the workforce. So, what's going on here? For starters, Ford might have overestimated how many people would be willing to drop nearly six figures on an electric truck. That miscalculation left dealerships across the country with more Lightnings than they can sell. Some dealers have even started refusing additional shipments because their lots are already jam-packed, and when the trucks aren't moving, neither is the production line. That leaves workers stuck in a kind of employment limbo, waiting for demand or prices to shift. This isn't just a Ford problem, it's a snapshot of the growing pains the entire EV market is experiencing. EVs are having trouble getting ahead because they are too expensive, there aren't enough charging stations, and people are still skeptical about them. Even with federal tax incentives and state rebates, electric vehicles still feel like a luxury item for a lot of buyers. And the ripple effects don't stop there. When dealerships can't sell the trucks, production halts, and workers feel the squeeze. Now, many car lots are starting to question their strategy, and some are giving up completely. One big name in the auto business, AutoNation Inc., which is a giant in the world of US dealerships, did something very risky not long ago. They sold 8 of their dealerships in the third quarter of the year 24. That's not just a reshuffle for fun. Even better, 5 of those 8 were Ford franchises. Yes, they actually closed down more than 6 Ford stores. You see, they didn't just hand over the keys and leave. No, they made a lot of money. The deal made them a huge $156 million. That sounds good for AutoNation, doesn't it? Now, things get heated. What does this say about Ford? If AutoNation is leaving such a well-known brand, that's not exactly a good review. AutoNation is only interested in making money, let's face it. They're not running a charity. They sell cars to make a lot of money. When they decide to sell off some dealerships because they're underperforming, that's a big sign that something isn't right. When they do this to Ford, one of the most famous names in the business, it's like telling them, yeah, we're not so sure about you anymore. There's also the fact that other dealers might start to doubt AutoNation if they think this way. So, why did these car lots underperform in the first place? Right now, the car market is viral. A mess. People are much less likely to spend money, especially on big things like new cars. Ford's lineup is great, but it's not exactly cheap. As an example, look at the F1 Lightning. Many people might not want to buy this great electric truck because of its high price. Let's remember, Ford prices its services and many others at a range of 12.1%, 15.6%. When you add in rising interest rates, ongoing supply chain problems, and tough competition from electric car startups like Rivian and Tesla, those Ford dealerships aren't making as much money as they used to. AutoNation probably looked at their lots full of cars that hadn't been sold and decided it wasn't worth the trouble anymore. Why hold on to stock that isn't selling when you could sell the dealership and get a lot of cash? So this move isn't just for AutoNation either. It might be the first step in a bigger change in the business world, like a domino effect. That's why this is so important. Ford's direct line to its customers is through its dealerships, which are more than just places to buy cars. When other dealership groups see what AutoNation did, they might do the same thing. This could be very bad for Ford. When there are fewer dealerships, customers have fewer places to look at cars, which makes the market less visible. This puts even more pressure on dealers to keep sales from dropping. Ford might have to take a close look at what they're doing after this. Are their cars just too pricey for people to buy these days?